we have no rules and regulations as to where these pipelines can go. We have very few rules and regulations and ordinances that can stop any of this development. So the only way you can get protection is through grassroots.
I speak my mind because they've taken everything from me.
Well, is all the money in the world worth, the air and the water that you breathe?
Okay, my name is Jane Worthington and I live in McDonald, Pennsylvania. I previously have lived in Mount Pleasant Township. I now live in Robinson. Both are well fracked, well drilled, and very heavily developed by the gas and oil industry.
So my name is Lois Bauer Bjornson. I live in Scenery Hill, Pennsylvania. We're 40 minutes south of Pittsburgh.
My name is Brian Lacanich. I live at Deemston, Pennsylvania.
So the first impacts that I started to actually notice when you become aware of things are things like, wow, why are all those trees being cut? Oh my, they're burning off a holding pond. What is that up in the sky? And it's a big flame, and so you're educating yourself. Oh, it's flaring, or boy, that's the oddest odor I've ever smelled in my life, and I don't know what it is, and it's just kind of in this area, and then all of a sudden there's flaring over here and there's something else going on over here. I walked off of my porch here, looked to my right, and I thought the entire ridge was on fire, which is about a mile from me. And it was a holding pond being burned off for, I don't know, 4-6 weeks at a time. And you could hear it, and I can't even describe the sound other than it was a forest fire, but it was a holding pond.
Oh, I first heard about fracking because my daughter and son had both developed asthma, and there's no history whatsoever of asthma in our family. And then other symptoms began to occur, and the doctors nor myself could put them together. So they felt at that time that it may be environmentally related, and they told me to start looking at what was going on in the environment around us. So I started to look in our home, removing things with fragrances, removing soaps, etc. That didn't have any difference. I changed filters and furnaces, got an air purifier. Then I started to look at my daughter's actual environment, which included her school. They were fracking and drilling very, very, very close to her school, and that's when I became involved in learning more. Fort Cherry is home of the Rangers. It sits on top of a hill, one way in, one way out, and it currently has Shirley, Toward, and Yonkers pad all within just feet of a half a mile of the school.
Probably around 2007 or 8, they start fracking in our area. The neighbors' farms plus shallow wells. At that point I was pretty excited because they approached me and told me that I was going to get a Marcellus well on my property, and I was going to become a multi-millionaire. They promised me $8 to $13 million in the first 3 years. They insisted they were only coming here to take a ½ acre of ground, and that they were only going to use sand and water. I'm lucky if I got $150,000, and I probably lost $900,000 in property damage and or health.
So as far as health impacts, a lot of times you don't even realize you're having them until you take a health survey, and then you go, oh my gosh, I've got every one of those, or I've got 10 out of 8, or 10 out of 20 or something. And that's really what I experienced. I've noticed things with my children. I have friends that have far more severe health effects than my children do. My oldest, who's now 16, a few years back, he developed this rash all over him. Like it was on his ears. It was everywhere. And he had it for over a month. And we went to the dermatologist and they biopsied it. And it came back as raised hair follicles. And the dermatologist said, I know that's not true. But, they don't know what it is because, again, these are the early stages. No one really knows what's in the air, what's in your water. No chemicals are allowed to be released. They have some guesses, and that type of thing. My daughter, when she was an infant, had I not bathed her, I would have thought someone scalded her. So she had exasperated eczema, and it was horrible. Like it frightened me. They all have rashes of some sort that all correlate when fracking is going on?
My daughter started to have multiple symptoms over a long period of time, but the one thing that was really concerning was the unexplained bruising. My daughter had extreme unexplained bruising. I have photographs of her with a lot of bruises on her legs, her arms, her extremities. And at one point we were at a doctor's office and he was putting BBs on the bruising, and he turned her around and he didn't even have enough BBs to recover the front because the bruises were coming that quickly. Bloody noses, gastrointestinal problems, migraines and headaches, and this was all happening at the time to a 9-year-old.
They moved over 200,000 cubic yards. They disturbed 18.4 acres of ground on a 22-acre piece of land. It was constant noise, round-the-clock trucks, dust, dirt, and then they brought in the pits with the produced fluid and they set them there for almost a year. And they just set. And I got in an argument with them, hey, I can't use my farm, I can't do anything here, this property is harmed, I got this contaminated water that you trucked in here and I can't do anything. And then finally they came in and fracked a well, and that's when the nightmare really started with the flaring and the heat. I mean, it was daylight here around the clock for weeks. The noise was ridiculous. I thought the house was actually going to catch on fire. You'd stand on the back porch here for a minute and you'd get a suntan. And then the chemicals and the smell that would come off of it and invert down into the colder valley just got me to puke and have diarrhea and projectile vomiting.
So the health community is just so far behind. It's just beginning to embrace. The CDC is coming out with reports to acknowledge. We have, the AMA has finally come out and said, we might want to talk against fracking. This is all important, but it's very late. Very late. We in this area are 8 and 10 years into it, and we're seeing the health effects. And, we just are scared as to what's going to happen next.
The Department of Health started to call people this year. Well, some people called 5 years ago. So, they're just starting a health registry around fracking now, which is laughable because they don't have a baseline. So, that's another tactic almost. So if there's no baseline, you can't say it's our fault, right?
And you could see down here in the trash pump where they were pumping this water out of these pits, and this is produced water. That means it contains the chemicals that went down in there and what came up there out of there with the radioactivity, and they were pumping it onto my ground. And I caught them in the act. This particular day when I went up here to take these pictures, they actually physically threatened me and told me get off my property. This is just some of the runoff coming off of that hill in May 22nd, 2013, and just running through the house. You can see how it run down the hill like that. Another engineer here trying to figure out why water doesn't run uphill. They made a nice big rainbow here and focused all the water toward my house. And the dirt and the dust with the contaminated water that they mixed in there, you were breathing that. And we both got asthma that year. This particular picture was my son out of the bathtub, April 6, 2013. He came out of our bathtub with bleeding sores on him. Went in fine and came out with seeping sores on him.
I am Ryan Dillinglack Canich, going to be 8 years old, and I go to Bethlehem Center Elementary School. I feel like I'm going to die every day from when I'm in Otis fracking. And the water at our school is very contaminated too.
Yeah.
It's milky white. In my old class, they said not to drink it.
Getting parents to be concerned and active is a very difficult task in this area because everybody's under lease. Around 95 to 96% of our entire township in Mount Pleasant Township and around 90% in Robinson Township is under lease. This is big money and people are not going to talk against this industry. But children have been impacted. My own child has been benzene exposed. Of course, causation is very, very difficult to prove. But she is benzene exposed and she has had numerous symptoms. We've seen an increase in asthma, and we do currently have a couple of cases of different types of cancer in our school. We've had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, we've had leukemia, we've had kidney problems. We are seeing a little uptick in that, but the parents don't want to talk about it, they don't want to disclose it, because there's a lot of money involved.
These farms are gorgeous here. The trees have been denuded. They pushed in roadways. We have nothing but flooding concerns. And the biggest thing is what they put down the well combines with radioactivity. In my well alone, they have found radon, alpha, beta, gamma, 226, 229, and uranium in my water alone since this happened. When they're here with those frack pits, the water that they brought in here in particular was what they call produced water. Produced water is the water that they put down into the well to frack, and it grabs all the radiation and the chemicals. And they say they recycle that water. Well, what they do is they bring that water to the sites, fill it up in the other ponds, and leave it there for a year and keep adding more to it as it evaporates. So you're constantly breathing the chemicals and the evaporation of it. So you just don't realize what that's doing to you over time.
I'd like the folks in Massachusetts, I'd like to invite a few people to come on a tour so that they could actually see the process of getting the gas and what happens to communities, to land, to our air, to our water, and how it's not slowing down, it's expanding and getting bigger and bigger. And they also need to understand that if they do an increased build out of their pipelines, that increases more fracking on us. I mean, like, look at that. I wouldn't want to do that. Would you?
No.
But that's me. So I don't know. And I'm sure that I don't know, there's some people that aren't leaseholders and they're this close. You can see how it's expanding here. This is the muster area. This is where you run to when you, when, in case something explodes. But so this is all new. This is all expanding all through here. Something's going on back there, and that's new within the last couple weeks.
How do you generally find out about what's coming?
Just like this. Drive around. There's no zoning in our community, so you wake up and there's a new pad. The only way that you know it is if you go to a township meeting and ask if they have an Act 14 notice, and that's the 30-day period that starts, the community able to say, no, we don't want this. And see, so all of this was rented to them, so this was rented for their equipment, and then here's the compressor station. I have a friend that in the neighboring township that this is his backyard. And so, and the footage I have of one of these, the FLIR footage that shows the leaking, it's just non-stop. Just plumes of terrible stuff coming out of it. And this is so you see how that pad there, how close it is, and here's another pad they're fracking. You'll see it, this one is lighting up at night. So that's another thing, they have lights on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So you have light pollution as well as noise pollution, air pollution, water pollution, truck traffic pollution, diesel pollution. Yeah, this is it. This is a 27-acre well pad. And I used to go into Senator Bartolotta's office and tell her this, and she was like, well, that's not true. They're not allowed to have that. Well, they do. So I'm wondering if this is going to be one of those super well pads next. And you can see where the cut is. This was a pipeline here that goes over there. And so when it rained the other day, torrential rain, just mud and muck and funk rolled off of there. And there's homes all around back in there. But with the super well pads, and just they're mini industrial sites, which that's the other thing industry tells you. Oh, This is an industrial process, which is why they frack all in the agricultural zones and they're not allowed. And that's why communities let them. Well, now they came out and said it, like the gentleman in EQT, I can't remember his name, said these are mini industrial sites. Well, there you go. No kidding.
People want to talk about inconveniences all the time. We go to a lot of these meetings publicly and people want to talk about the mud that's rolling out on the road or the heavy trucks that are pushing them off the road, the inconveniences of the early morning noises and the lights. These are all small, small inconveniences compared to what the long-term ramifications are.
It wasn't the boost to the economy that they project. There's no way. What it did is destroy the tourism, destroyed the hunting, it destroyed the farming. So you got an economic boost immediately in 2008 through 14, but now you're left with nothing overall.
Nobody knew that it was going to be a multi-well well pad. Nobody knew it was going to have a pipeline. Nobody knew any of this. And they don't have to tell us. We don't have standings. So if we don't have standings as parents, if you don't live within 2,500 feet of the development, you don't have standings in our township. So I currently have a precedent-setting lawsuit in Washington County in the court, and it's being heard in a brief on March 1st that I'm trying to win standings for all the parents of the school district. If we can win standings, that'll win standings for 1,200 parents. And if we can win that, then across the state, all parents in schools possibly could have standings. That would help Penn Trafford, that would help Butler, that would help Derry, that would help a lot of school districts.
You know, if our exposure and our community's exposure are terrible, can you imagine if you work in that? Like every day, I mean, I've seen frackers come up and they're covered in frack fluid. You can see their eyes. Like you know, these guys wear hazmat suits on these pads with the radioactive material. So can you imagine what that daily exposure is?
Nobody wants to see their kids get sick. Every time I speak of this, I say I'm not going to be emotional, but how can I not be? I have to be emotional. That's what keeps me going. I'm totally motivated because somebody has to hear and believe and act on the story. This is a real story. This is something that happened to a little girl in the middle of nowhere because of an industry that is not well regulated and because of an industry that has so much infrastructure built around it, and nobody's looking at the small children.